Welcome to my channel. I'm here. This is the story of how my family came for dinner. I was 6 years old the summer that all of my relatives came. Dad grew up with 7 siblings in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and every year for the 4th of July, our family would get together at their house. But this year was different because Mom said we were going on an adventure. The drive from Michigan to Wisconsin took all day. So we packed up the station wagon with coolers full of snacks and drinks, towels, blankets, frisbees, bikes, games and toys, pillows, sleeping bags, and me. We had to stop at a motel halfway there so that we could stretch our legs and sleep before continuing the journey. When we woke up, I wanted to keep driving. I begged and pleaded until Dad finally agreed to stop at a place called Grandma's house. It looked exactly like the name suggested. There were flowers in front, a big porch with a rocking chair, and a sign that read, "Welcome." I remember thinking how strange it was that they would build a house in the middle of cornfields, just so that someone could live there alone. But that's what made it magical. It felt like a secret clubhouse. We walked inside and it smelled like cinnamon. A woman with the kindest face sat behind the counter making cinnamon rolls. She greeted us with a smile and asked if we wanted to buy any of her famous homemade pies. I wanted to say yes, but I didn't have any money. So I just smiled politely and said no. When we went outside, I noticed a sign that read, "Don't be afraid to knock on closed doors," which was funny because there were no other rooms except for the kitchen and bathroom. After buying some cinnamon rolls and apple pie, we continued on our way. And about 20 minutes later, we turned onto the road that led to our grandparents' house. It was surrounded by cornfields, hay bales, and tractors. There was a basketball hoop and a volleyball net, a tire swing, and a sandbox. And even though it wasn't our house, it felt like home. All of my aunts and uncles and cousins were already there. Some of them I hadn't seen in a while. They all ran over to greet us and give me hugs. After that, we all stood in a circle holding hands and said, "Hi, I'm so glad that you're here." I was happy that my family loved each other so much. Later, after we finished touring the property and exploring the creek, it was dinner time. All of the adults went inside to help out in the kitchen, while all of the kids stayed out back to play. Soon, the smell of hamburgers and hot dogs filled the air. It was amazing. While we waited for dinner, my cousin Jeff challenged me to a wrestling match. He was the biggest kid there, and he always beat me at everything. This time, though, I managed to pin him down and I shouted, "I'm going to win this time." Just then, one of my uncles walked by and scooped me up and gave me a huge piggyback ride. He ruffled my hair and said, "Good job, champ." Even though I didn't win the wrestling match, I still felt like a winner. That night there were fireworks and sparklers and fireflies and s'mores. I couldn't believe how lucky I was to have so much fun with my family. I remember thinking that having this many people love you must feel like being the president. Everyone cheers when you enter a room. You get to stay up late playing with your friends. You never have to do any chores. And while there were definitely lots of people cheering and lots of staying up late and definitely not doing any chores, I realized that what being the president doesn't give you is the feeling of belonging. And that's something that only families can give you. The next morning, I woke up early and snuck out of my bedroom without waking anyone up. I crept downstairs and saw that the coffee pot was already brewing. I poured myself a cup and I sat down at the table and I heard footsteps behind me. My grandpa, who I hadn't seen since Christmas, shuffled closer. He was wearing a bathrobe and slippers. He looked older. He seemed tired. But when he smiled at me, it reached his eyes. He asked how I was doing and if I liked living in a big city. I told him about school and about my bike and about how much I liked living where I lived. He nodded, and he poured himself a cup of coffee. I remember wondering why he had asked me those questions because I knew that he knew the answers. Then he did something that I'll never forget. He pulled out a chair and he sat down next to me at the table and he rested his arm on my shoulder. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I knew that he was telling me that I could tell him anything. In that moment, I knew that he had been a kid once too. I imagined what life must have been like for him growing up on a farm with 6 other siblings. What was it like when he was 6? Is there a special place that he liked to go to? Did he have a best friend? What did they do for fun? Did he have a favorite aunt or uncle? How about a favorite cousin? Did he miss anyone? As I got older, I started to notice things about my grandpa. Like how his hands were rough and worn and calloused, like a tree branch or a river stone. and how his skin was leathery and weathered, like an old baseball glove or a saddle, and how his eyes were cloudy and faded, like an antique mirror or an old photograph. As he got older, these things bothered me. I think that's because I stopped seeing him as Grandpa. I started seeing him as old man, and that broke my heart. But sitting there with him at the kitchen table that summer morning, I saw him as my grandpa again, and it made me happy. Later that morning, everyone crowded into the kitchen to help make breakfast.
X.
Pancakes and eggs and bacon and fruit. It was great. After that, we all went outside and played. The adults grilled and we swam and we napped, played hide and seek and Red Rover. My Aunt Becky got stung by a bee. My cousin Jeff fell off the tire swing. Someone threw a frisbee at my head. And all of that was okay because we had bug spray and Band-Aids and ice cream. As the sun began to set, everyone gathered around the fire pit. Some people roasted marshmallows and others told stories. And I thought, this is the best day ever. Everyone here loves each other. We love having a good time. We look out for each other. And most of all, we feel safe here. We feel like we belong here. The weekend passed quickly and soon it was time to go. We all stood in a circle holding hands and said, "We're so glad that you came. This time I meant it." On the way home, we stopped at that strange house in the cornfield again. I wanted to buy one of Grandma's cinnamon rolls, but I still didn't have any money. I looked inside and I saw that same woman behind the counter smiling at me. She asked if I wanted to buy a cinnamon roll. She said, "It's on the house." I thanked her, but I told her that I didn't have any money. She just smiled. She handed me a cinnamon roll and she said, "It's on your tab." Then she winked and she handed me $1. She said, "Here's $1. Take care." I hugged her and I told her that she was very nice. Then we drove away. I was quiet for the rest of the car ride. I ate my cinnamon roll and I thought about that lady and I wondered how many other families she let pay her back. Slowly I realized that the reason that place felt like a secret clubhouse was because it was. It was a clubhouse for people who needed a little bit of extra love, a little bit of extra kindness, a little bit of extra hope, and maybe that's what life is all about. Maybe that's what family is all about. Maybe that's what summer is all about. One day, I'll grow up and I'll have kids, and someday I'll take them to meet my family. I want them to know that they're loved. I want them to know that they're safe. I want them to know that they belong. If they have questions, I'll tell them that I'm the luckiest person in the world, because I grew up in a house full of relatives.